host, Joan Ivering, and today we will take a look at a recap of Chapter 6, followed by a detailed thematic analysis. Stay tuned to hear about this meaningful chapter. Now to Rachel recap to fill you in on the recent events. Thank you, Joe. Chapter 6, titled The Voice, speaks of two different voices. One, the voice from the newly added television in the wheelwright's home. Two, the voice, Owen's pen name for his editorials in the Gravesend Academy's newsletter. First, I will fill you in on the television. Though initially, Grandmother Wheelwright hated televisions because of the lack of effort required to watch them, when Germaine quits, Grandmother Wheelwright becomes addicted. Grandmother and Owen both love Liberace, not necessarily for his music, but for his personality and caring attitude. Johnny, on the other hand, is frustrated by their obsession. But Dan sets him straight, telling him to allow his grandmother to have somebody to admire after suffering so many losses. As for Owen, Dan argues that Owen has not yet mastered his social and intellectual stimulation, so leave him be. When the Eastmans come to Gravesend for Thanksgiving, the boys admire the TV while Hester abhors it. Speaking of the Eastmans, Noah and Simon are attending Gravesend Academy, while Hester isn't receiving any special protection and is attending public school. Owen was also accepted into Gravesend Academy with full scholarship, but because Johnny was asked to take 9th grade in public school and repeat it at the academy the following year, Owen chooses to do the same and to stick with Johnny. Owen and Johnny also see digitalized voices when they go to see the movie, The Robe, which Owen criticizes because of its focus on religious meanings and objects. To show his opposition of worshipping things, Owen vandalizes the statue of Mary Magdalene with dried tadpoles, toad guts, and whatever else he could find. During Christmas, Owen and Johnny tried to pick out Johnny's father from the audience yet again, and Owen noted that it may be exciting to find him, but the man probably isn't a good man, because if he was, Tabby would have introduced him. Johnny accepts this, but doesn't slow his search. Upon becoming a student at the academy, Owen quickly rises to fame as the voice in the school paper. Owen has matured, and the students and staff take his voiced opinion very seriously. Owen's opinion was so highly respected that he even had private interviews with the headmaster applicants. As the voice, Owen convinces the staff that there should be substitutions for fish on Fridays because not all the students are Catholics, and we all know Owen has a thing against Catholics. The headmaster warns him to be careful not to make any enemies. When the school's minister dies, Owen takes the lead in giving Mr. Merrill, who had substituted for the minister temporarily, the position. Remaining in a superior position, Owen invites Hester as his date for the senior prom at the academy. This was when Owen and Johnny were freshmen. The Gravesend staff works very hard to supervise the children and has strict rules in place. Owen and Hester, though, under special privileges, escaped the academy and enjoyed a movie at 80 Front Street. We are unaware of anything else that might have occurred. Owen continues dating Hester through the next year, which boosts his reputation even further. Owen also picked up a reputation for his slam dunks. Yes, as in basketball. Enabled by Johnny, Owen could fly up to the basket, hit the ball in, and drop back to the ground successfully in 4 seconds. Owen also picked up popularity from his selling fake IDs to some of the first at the time. Johnny is constantly being reminded of the voice of Owen. On Easter of 1987 in Toronto, the whispering of Catherine Keeling reminds John of Owen. As John is in Toronto, speaking to one of his students about the novel Tess, he flashes back to his school days when he suffered through reading that same book. Johnny struggles to teach his class in Toronto because of his students' lack of interest, much the same as his own when he was in class. When he was in school, John was sent to the psychiatrist for help in spelling and reading, but this treatment had no effect. Owen managed to teach him to read faster, to write papers, and to spell, and Johnny wishes that he could be an Owen to his students. The thought of that brings tears to Johnny's eyes. That was the spring of the new headmaster and the decade that would defeat Owen and John. The new headmaster refused to speak to Owen in a private interview, and both Dan and Owen are alarmed by his personality when he is hired. Then White, the new headmaster, changes many things at the academy. Owen, of course, disagrees with many of his decisions, including building a new house for the headmaster, changing the morning chapel to a morning meeting in the Great Hall, and taking away the Latin requirement. But more importantly, Owen disagrees with the way these decisions are made. White also changes the dismissal policy, and Owen argues against that. After all these disagreements, White appoints himself as the advisor of the grave, and therefore a more difficult screener for Owen's articles. The chapter ends with Owen once again voicing his opinion that Kennedy is the best candidate because he will be a kind of savior for America. More to come. See you next week. Back to you, Joe. Thank you, Rachel. I am very impressed by Owen's ability to raise himself above the other students while remaining the shortest one. Now to Teresa Themes for a look into some themes.
Thank you, Joe. 2 themes are heavily emphasized in this chapter. First, Owen, as the voice, represents the ability for Americans to speak out their opinions, but also the struggles associated with them and the opposition that comes with it. Because of Owen's small size and low class as a quarry worker and freshman in school, he seems like the lowliest of the low. Irving uses this character to emphasize that all people, even the lowliest, can and should voice their opinions. Because of the respect Owen receives, Irving is also showing that some of the seemingly unimportant people have the most effective and true opinions and should be respected. This corresponds to the American right of equality and freedom of speech, and the American dream that anyone can be a successful leader. The second theme is the effect of hearing others' opinions or statements. Let's see our quote of the week from Owen. "What a big fuss about a blanket," Owen said. "That's so Catholic," he added, "to get very religious about objects." Page 274. Owen says this after watching the movie, The Robe, in which a robe is passed around as a symbol of Jesus. Later, Owen vandalizes the statue of Mary Magdalene by throwing walnuts at it, as well as tadpoles and mutilated toads. He has the same reaction after viewing the movie The 10 Commandments, when he is again frustrated by the misrepresentation of religion. On the other hand, upon hearing Liberace, Owen and Mrs. Wheelwright are in awe and respect him. Johnny, however, sees Liberace as a fake and is frustrated by their obsession. Irving uses this to convey that when people speak out, there are differing opinions of their statements. Overall, Irving appreciates the ability to have a voice, to speak his opinion, and to hear others, all causes of growth and change. It's no wonder he named the chapter The Voice. Now the question is, whose voice is he talking about? Owen's or his? Back to you, Joe.
Thank you, Teresa. That's all for this episode. Check back next week for some more development. See you next time.